Yo, hey, Derek Parker back with another first time watching. Today we're going to do Darryn Peterson, who I believe right now is most experts' number one prospect heading into the 2026 NBA draft cycle. It's kind of a three-headed dragon of DeBonsa, who we've already covered now, Darryn Peterson, and Cam Boozer. I believe there was an ESPN front office poll done, and I think Peterson very narrowly edged out DeBonsa in terms of who experts think will be the number one pick next year. Now, obviously, there's an entire calendar year, an entire collegiate season ahead to find out, but I think right now Peterson probably does have a slight lead, which is interesting just considering that he's a guard prospect. I feel like wings, forwards, even centers have kind of had a slight edge over guards in the last handful of years, at least in terms of being number one. So really excited to dive into Darryn Peterson here today. Obvious 5-star, committed to Kansas. He stands at 6'5". I believe most have him as a true combo guard, pretty much right smack dab in the middle between shooting and point guard. But it seems like he's going to shy a little bit more towards the two based off what I've seen and read. So yeah, I've got his film pulled up. We're just going to run through some stuff, get immediate reactions to Peterson. I'm going to watch scoring, watch a little bit of defense and a little bit of passing, and we'll get out of here. Just came down with the ball, number 22 in white for prolific prep, bringing the ball up the floor. Super cool that Kansas is going to have another prospect like this. It's been a long time since they've had like a number one contender, or really even like a top 5 contender. I'm imagining that even though he is probably more of a 2 guard, I'm sure he handles the ball a ton in high school, being the best player on the floor at all times. Great move there, pretty controlled. This step he takes fully looks like it's going to be a drive, and he just lifts pretty effortlessly. That's a pro move. Bang. Pretty graceful 2-footed slam here. Easy lift. Light on his feet. Gets the flush. Just some general things I really like in my tier 1 guard prospects is driving ability. I think it's absolutely paramount to consistently offering a top scoring option. Passing and playmaking feel. You got to have a semblance of shooting. You got to play a little bit of defense at least. And it sounds like, from what I've read and the very little I've seen of Darryn Peterson, that he is a combination of all these things. It sounds like his driving and slashing ability is absolute S tier. His footwork, movement style, kind of gracefulness, all of that in tandem kind of makes him a premier driver. And then it seems like, again, we're watching the film now, we'll get into it, but it seems like he's going to have kind of the wherewithal to be a passer, playmaker, really have the ball in his hands quite a bit, even though he's going to shy more towards the 2. So just to give you a little insight into some of the things I'm looking for as we go through these highlights. That was a nasty move. My brain is having trouble comprehending what's happening here. Is this a double hesitation? 1, 2, into a step back, long range 3-pointer. Woo! You can tell on the screen he's kind of probing for playmaking opportunities, and they're just not there. Everyone's pretty well covered, so he just decides, I'm going to go dunk this thing, which at the high school level, for a guy like this, is going to work out most of the time. He's got, at minimum, 4 defenders in his vicinity. Doesn't matter. 2-footed slam. Again with the hesitation. Even in the first handful of clips, you can tell this is one of his go-tos. That's going to get collegiate defenders. That's going to get pro defenders. God help these high school guys thinking this is about to be a pull-up jump shot. This guy takes 3 full steps for the contest and is blown by. That's tough, man. Pretty great footwork right here. He's in isolation, but there's at least 3 defenders waiting in help right here. Doesn't really matter, just kind of based off the position he gets himself in. He's kind of feeling out, is this guy going to jab? If I turn around, is there going to be a double? Doesn't matter. Step through and a nice finish through contact. The handle doesn't necessarily look perfect in these clips, but I want to caveat that with the fact that the stuff he's doing and trying is like all world dribble moves. Behind the back, crossover into a spin, keeps it alive for one more dribble and goes up for a contested finish. Like, this is really tough stuff, number one. Number two, he's probably 17, 18 years old, gonna get way better in this area in general. And lastly, for a two guard, a guy who probably isn't even gonna be handling the ball the most on the floor, this is nuts. Pretty nice cut here and a good look at the overall athleticism. Wide open lane, another two-footed, two-handed flush. Just kind of a calculated, controlled gracefulness to his movement. There's been a lot of like all-time players thrown out in comparison to Darryn Peterson. I'm not going to go there, but some of the names, I mean, just in terms of like movement style, at least where they were relative to their own preps play, makes some sense. I get it. I'm not going to compare him to all-timers at this age, but I get what people are seeing. Oh, here we go. Prolific prep, down one, 13.8 seconds on the clock. 10 seconds. That is a crazy shot to take. You can tell there was no set play here. Coach said, go get me a bucket, and this is what Darryn Peterson opted for. That is just a cold-blooded killer shot. The shooting mechanics are obviously good. I think the numbers are reflective of that. I think he's projected to be a very strong shooter, which is great considering his driving ability. Obviously, with the threat of a jumper, he'll be able to parlay that into even more slashing, even more paint touches. So always a great thing to have, but it seems like it's going to be a real weapon for him. You get some screen navigation here in the pick and roll. He steps through two defenders. I'm not sure this is probably like a high efficiency shot, especially one at like the next two levels, but the coordination to still step through these defenders, go up off 1 foot and make this shot is pretty nuts. Especially after, sorry to harp on this, but especially after that little yank back, like his momentum was fully going backwards and he still jumps through both. Impeccable footwork, really, really unique athleticism. I mean, stuff like this is what makes Shea such a tough cover, because he's just got counter after counter with the ball in hand. Fake jab, deeper jab, back step, hop through. How do you stop this? Peterson is such an exciting prospect too, because I feel like there's been a little bit of a divide between athletic versus like really skill-based creation. And he pretty much toes the line between both. Like, he obviously has the natural athleticism just in like the natural way that he moves and the leaping ability and the like kind of innate coordination, but he's also got so much blatant skill in his game and just the way that he approaches things, the IQ that he plays with, the way he kind of probes the floor, finds space like he just did there, the recognition of, oh, this lane's open and I'm gonna have the athleticism to still go up and get an easy bucket. Just a really, really fun combination of backcourt ability. Get a nice look at the decel here, a thing few players truly have in their bag. He goes from not quite full speed, but going pretty quick, to slowing down, creating separation, little bump with some physicality, and then puts up a nice floater. It's pro stuff. That stuff's going to work in college no matter what. Little ghost screen into a nice clear picture of the three-point shot. It almost looks like this was supposed to be a lob, or maybe his feet just got kind of mixed up here and he ended up jumping a little too early. Regardless, you get a decent look at kind of the straight line skill here. The acceleration, the first step. Like, he goes from A to B pretty quick here. Obviously he doesn't get all the way downhill, but this little burst right here is pretty quick. That's going to get a lot of defenders out of sorts. I don't know if he's made it a point of emphasis on his game or if he's really just like doing this naturally, but I love his fakes and jabs and all the things that kind of get defenders reaching and jumping and moving before he switches things up. Just not super often seen, especially at the high school level. Like, typically guys, even guards, just want to get downhill and immediately get into this dunk, but he fakes this three, gets a defender well out of position, and then kind of gives himself the runway here for a nice dunk. I think I touched on it in my DeBonsa video, but I think I would have DeBonsa number 1 right now, just purely based off the fact that he's 6'9", really like his movement style. I think it's still a wings league. I think forwards are still just a bit more valuable, but in watching Peterson, it is really, really easy to see why people have him number 1. And I wouldn't fault anyone, and I said that in the DeBonsa video as well. I wouldn't fault anyone for having him or even Cam Boozer at number 1. I truly think all three are really interesting for a lot of different reasons. And I think there's going to be a lot of varying opinions about all three as we kind of move through the cycle and things become a little more clear with college basketball. Gets into this shot really quick. Quick little compact shot for him here. Angles himself on the catch. Same exact thing here. I mean, coming off screen, obvious set play on the inbounds. Great screen, effectively getting 2 guys here. But so quickly lines himself up with the goal on the catch. If he's able to really put all of these things together, he's going to be a player that is just so easily going to be able to score at all 3 levels. If you can hit your jumpers, especially ones as advanced as this, you're going to have to respect him as a shooter. The second you do that, you play a little bit more on your heels in terms of his driving ability, which, as we've touched on, seems like it's going to be S tier. And then just with his movement style and kind of the hodgepodge of moves and ways that he can get downhill, it seems like he's going to have a lot of access to the mid-range as well. So again, didn't ultimately end up working out on the initial drive, but another good look at the bursts here right off the catch. Huge step through, great use of footwork, obviously natural to him. Great finish through contact here. Again, you see that acceleration. He gets around 2 guys pretty quickly. And then he's got a couple draped over him on the actual drive. Still able to finish. That's obviously going to be a big thing at the collegiate level. Guys are bigger, faster, stronger. He's going to have to finish through contact pretty well, especially as much as he's probably going to be driving. So definitely one thing to watch over the course of the next season. Little bit of a predetermined shot here, but it doesn't matter because he's just so quick and so athletic and has such a high rising jumper that the defender doesn't really have time. I mean, that's a good contest, to be honest. This is good defense, and it just doesn't matter. Also, didn't notice it, that's AJ DeBonsa, so that's actually a fairly high-level defender there, and it just doesn't matter because of Peterson's combination of skills and the fluidity of his game. Another one of those little fakes. I don't know if he was truly going to shoot this ball. It looks like, just based off where he caught it, he really was going to shoot this. Instead, goes for the fake, and then with pretty lightning quick processing, just gets right back into the next shot. That's nasty. Again, with DeBonsa on him. Woo, woo. I'm slightly invested in who's going to win this game. 58-58, couple minutes left in the third. I remember DiBonsa having quite a bit in this game. Peterson's obviously frying here as well. Also, super cool that DiBonsa has been guarding him in most of these clips. This is pretty poor defense on his part, but seems like he's got the floater pretty well in his bag. I would imagine just with his level of touch and coordination that he'll be able to use this fairly often. Obviously a great weapon in that mid-range. Really hard for defenders to get to shots like these, especially when he can put that up at any point in his kind of driving path. This is sneakily one of my favorite plays I've seen of him so far. This is just flawless coordination. That is poetry in motion, dude. Gliding across the court. Look at the subtle kind of micro moves that he uses to get defenders moving certain ways. I mean, this guy takes an entire step left just based off this little head fake. Just glides to the rim. I'm just going to let it play. Great use of the separation there. Little chicken wing. Maybe a slight push, but we take those. What a fun game. No way. 6.6 seconds left. AJ DiBonsa's Utah Prep ahead by 1. Obviously, this is scoring highlights, so we're going to see a bucket here. Crazy, crazy game between the number 1 and 2 prospects in the 26 class. No way, dude. No way. Again with the fake. Time running down. The crowd is freaking out. Rightfully so. Good pass. That's a risky pass. Not much else to say, man. That is a wild, wild shot. With 3 seconds on the clock, down 1. We'll go ahead and end the offense there. End on a high note. Fun game between DiBonsa and Peterson. We'll jump into a little bit of defense. I have read that Peterson is a pretty feisty defender relative to his scoring production. I don't trust high school defensive tape a ton, but maybe there's a little bit to be gleaned here from going across some defense. I do like fighting through 2 screens. Look at him sticking to this handler. Fights through. Movement allows him to just stick all over this guy. Then he gets a hand in. This is a fun play. I mean, obviously with the offensive production that he's likely going to have, obviously in high school, but in college, maybe even in pro moving forward, you're not going to expect him to be a crazy, crazy defender. Just energy-wise, it's hard to kind of have that offensive output and also add tons of defense like this. But what I will say is with his level of coordination, athleticism, just overall talent, IQ, things like that, he's at least going to have the tools to be a really, really good defender. And you'd always rather have that at least in your back pocket opposed to not really having something like that at all. He'll at least be able to play some good D. And it seems like with his IQ, he'll be able to jump lanes, kind of turn defense to offense, things like that. Nice poke here. Nothing crazy in the defensive highlights, as I just touched on. I mean, he's bigger, faster, stronger than absolutely everybody at this level. I am infinitely more interested in the passing tape. He is likely going to play more of the 2 guard, but obviously he'll command the rock quite a bit too with decent handle. It's a great look there. His driving ability should open up plenty of opportunities for his teammates. Really curious to see what kind of his processing level is in passing and playmaking. Maybe the deciding factor in whether he ends up my number one prospect or not. I'm big into passing. It's just my absolute favorite skill in basketball. I base a lot of my rankings and grades around it. And a pure scorer like this, having the ability to really create opportunities for others would really blow his game wide open in my mind. Great look here. Probably not going to see a ton of pick and roll reps, obviously, at the high school level. But we'll be super interested to see what his efficiency ends up at Kansas in the pick and roll as the pick and roll handler. Here he kind of uses that coordination. He had a play like this earlier where he stepped through for the layup. Here he kind of uses that same spin to create a slight lane to get through to the dunker spot there. Nice play. Another pick and roll. Probably a set play there. Finds the shooter. Little back screen. Some anticipation. Throws it before he's fully in the spot. This is a really fun play. I don't know if he was truly processing the game in real time or if he was just kind of hoping based off how the defense shifted that this would work, but it absolutely did. Drives left, obviously takes several defenders with him, recognizes that yet another help defender is crashing to that guy in the paint, whips it over to the corner for a three. Really fun play. Probably something he'll be able to do really, really consistently at every level just based on his driving ability. That's also not a shooting guard type play. Like, that's fully point guard stuff that we're dealing with there, which is why most people believe him to be a true combo guard. That is a wild play on both ends. Probably the best, easily the best defensive play we saw. Just takes the ball, looks up, absolute bullet pass right in the breadbasket. Got another play here that's going to be really, really effective if he can ever do it with consistency. Gets the attention of two defenders on a drive, this time being his own and the roving kind of five. Just lofts it up. Easy slam, dunker spot there. Gonna have that pretty consistently once he starts drawing the attention of rim protectors hoping to get a piece. Pretty accurate here. His stuff hasn't been like the most accurate. I would expect it to tighten up a little bit, especially with more rigid systems that he'll enter. Obviously, high school is just the wild, wild west in terms of actions and play types and everything. But overall, pretty positive passing stuff from Peterson in general. Seems to have his head on a swivel. Obviously, he's score first, as he should be with this combination of tools, but pretty good about recognizing who's open, who's not open, which is more often than not even more important. Great pass here, recognizing there's a mismatch. Pretty accurate again. We'll go last one here. This is a crazy pass. Fits it in just an immensely tight window. Looking up in transition. Just right through there. Fun stuff from DP. That is it. Fun stuff watching Darryn Peterson. We'll do Cam Boozer next. I'll have other videos coming out. We're going to be doing 2026 draft pretty consistently as we ramp up our film sessions on all these different prospects. I'm really excited to get past these top three because we know they're studs. I'm excited to dive into who that next tier is. Also going to be doing some past draft stuff, maybe some redrafts. Those seem fun. We'll have a mock on 2026 at some point that I'm working on right now. Might even have some general NBA stuff, so stay tuned. Anyways, that is it. Appreciate you watching.